Hey, this is truly Jacob, a writer. Again, this is my pen, writing, and media name, so you probably won't see my face. So today we're going to go over and give a summary of the Voyage of the Dawn Treader, the Chronicles of Narnia series by C.S. Lewis, give a summary, and then go over, are there any moral lessons that we can get in this story? So to start off with, here's the map. In the previous book, Prince Caspian was a prince, but now he's a king, and they started their voyage here at Cair Paravel, went here, all the way here, and then here in the Eastern Ocean and stuff like that, because they're trying to find a certain area. So initially, what is going on with Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy is their father is applying for a job in America, and so they had to stay at their cousin's house, and their cousin's name was Eustace or something like that. Tace or something. It's a very weird name to pronounce. Like, I don't know how to pronounce it properly. So if anyone has the ability to pronounce that. So anyways, there was a picture in their aunt's home, and Lucy and Edmund started looking at it, and then the picture started moving, and they're like, oh, that looks kind of like it would be like a Narnia ship. Like, this picture was made of Narnia, and they said like their aunt really didn't like the picture, but she kept it for some reason, so she put it in a room where she doesn't really see it. And Eustace Stace or whatever, he would purposely pick on his cousins and try to annoy them and irritate them. So he wasn't like the best cousin to like get along with, and it seemed like he was like an only child. So the picture starts moving around and comes to life, and they feel real water coming out of the picture, and then they get in, and then they see them overboard, and so they end up like, hey, Prince Caspian, but like 3 years have gone by, and for them it was a year, and so he's like, now I'm a king. In 3 years he became a king or whatever. They made him king. So I guess he learned enough of his duties to be able to become a king. And he found out information that his father had these lords, like 7 lords. And their whole thing is they're going to try to find them and let him know he's back in charge of Narnia. So, Reepicheep is the mouse, and his whole desire is to go to Aslan's country and possibly stay there and never come back. Well, they give Lucy the main cabin, and the ship is way smaller than the other Narnia ships that they had made when they were all kings and queens of Narnia. That is King Peter, Queen Susan, King Edmund, and Queen Lucy. And obviously Eustace didn't come along, and he knew about some stories, but he didn't know about certain things. And so he was literally complaining the whole time. So he wasn't making the beginning of the trip like wonderful, but Edmund and Lucy were all excited to be there. For some reason, this book is hard to change. So they, Eustace is really, like seasick and really hasn't been on a ship before. So Lucy gives him some of her cordial, and you know, they're talking about Narnia and stuff, what's going on. And like they seem to be enjoying themselves and drinking wine and food and everything, but Eustace, his mother, had him on a special diet. So they end up to like the first island, and Eustace kind of was like wanted to get out of doing work, so he ended up going away from the crowd. And well, technically that wasn't the first island. There are so many islands, I may not get them in order, so sorry about that. So the first island, they go on land and they find one of the lords. It ends up being like a slaver's island, and they like get sold as slaves, but the Lord recognized the eyes, or he reminded him of someone, King Caspian, and so he like basically freed him from what's it called? He freed him from slavery, and so they went and they got everybody back. And it's like some individuals trick them into selling them as slaves in the slave market. So again, I'm getting some of my order off the bat, so I don't remember the first island maybe. Okay, so then like they get their freedom back, and they like had this plan to take all the islands over again. And King Caspian made the one lord that like had bought land and married one of the ladies there. He had like a certain section of the land, and like he's like, you'll get gold, you'll get reunited. And they basically lied and said they had extra ships in sea, and they didn't, and they did a bluffer, and so they were able to get free, and everyone got freed from slavery, from their king, and they were able to continue on their journey. And I'm going to try to wait for a picture. Okay, and so then they got caught up in a storm, and it seemed like they weren't going to come to land for a very long time. And then they finally arrived, and this is where, like, because the mast and everything got broken, they needed more supplies, that they were scavenging the island, and Eustace runs off because he doesn't want to do any work. See, him not wanting to do any work. And then he drinks from this water. Nearby, he saw another dragon or whatever. And that dragon drank from the water, and then he found some lord's arm ring or whatever, and he put it on. And so, like, I surmise that I think the water turned him into a dragon, so you have to be careful where you drink from. And then he was all like, like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but he made a decision. I'm gonna try to be helpful in the best I can. So he helped gather supplies, he helped, you know, get more food and stuff. And then eventually Aslan came. He was like pretty much the only one that saw him, but in the night he like tore off the dragon clothes and he was like freed of like being a dragon. But Reaper Chief was the one that kept him company a lot. And they did discover like, oh, the dragon, he got cursed somehow to become a dragon. So like the island was magical. And so they threw the arm thing there. And they didn't want anything really to do with that island. But like they were keeping track of where they went and stuff like that. So then they keep going on. And they find another island. And they're very careful about looking in because they see one of the lords down at the bottom. And it turned out like that pool of water, like it could turn you into gold. So he called it the Island of Death because if you're not careful, you know, you could literally, you know, think you're diving into a pool of water and it's really gonna turn you into solid gold and kill you. And so he like didn't tell everybody, but his plan is to make everybody rich and keep coming back to the island and turn different objects into gold. And so to help, you know, boost the economy or make the Narnians rich. So he's claiming, King Caspian claimed that island as his. So I'm not sure what that picture is about. But basically they come to this other island where they are hearing voices, but there's no one around, and they're like, we're gonna cut you off from your ship. You're not gonna be able to get back from your ship. You need to, this is the Magician's Island, and you, Lucy, are required to go upstairs and read this spell and make it so we're no longer visible. And it's like, and they threatened her, like, if you don't, we'll keep you from your ship or whatever. So she listens to them, tries to find this magic book in the magician's house. And so she's looking at, you know, different spells. And here you see there's a cure for warts, or whatever. And so she's looking at stuff, and then there was pictures about her, and there was spells about, okay, this will make you more beautiful. And then she saw like Aslan appear on the picture and was like, don't say it. So she turned the page, and then once she turned the page, she couldn't go back. And then the next page, it was like, see, there was a spell to be like, what do your true friends think about you? And so then she overheard the truth of how like they were gossiping about her and didn't like her or whatever. And then she eventually, and then there was like this one spell where it was like she was reading a story, and it's like after she read it, she didn't remember it, but and then she did the spell that made everything visible again, and it made the magician visible, and then Aslan shows up, and she sees Aslan, and he's like, oh, you made me visible, now everyone can see me again. And so, and then Aslan's like, okay, I'm gonna go and check on Narnia to see if everything's okay. I'll see you at the end of the world soon. So, then it's like she ends up talking to the magician and is fine with the magician. And then they're checking on the duffel pods, and it's like they're kind of spying on them, and she eats with him, and like time goes by, and it's like basically they were dwarves, and they were very stupid, or something was really wrong with them, where they weren't following orders, and they lived on this island, and the magician's in charge of like looking after them, and he's trying to tell them, hey, you don't have to go up the hill to get water. You can just get it from the stream. But they keep wanting to go up to the hill and get water at the top of the hill instead of just getting it from the nearby stream. And so he was trying to like tell them instructions of how they could do things in a smarter way, and like they wouldn't obey. So he was like, they obey more when they're in this form where they have one leg and one big foot. And so, like, they used to be dwarfs, but they were worse individuals while they were dwarfs, but now they seem all happy. But like, it sounded like they did a lot of like stupid things. So, then apparently their foot is so big that it could act like a mini boat, and so they got paddles, and they like did races around the ship, and they were eating food and stuff like that, and they're having a good old time before they went to the Dark Island. Now on the Dark Island, they found a lord, and he was screaming, "Get me off, be careful, because it makes your dreams come true." And so they literally were not moving through the island, but they got this one lord, and then an albatross came and made it so there was light, and Lucy had cried out before that, Aslan, I wish Aslan would come and rescue us. And then when she saw the albatross, she like, that was flying, she was like, you look like Aslan. So then they go to this other island where there is a table and there's food that is there that is changed every night with new food, and you can eat from the table. But there was a knife, and that knife was used to kill Aslan in the past. So in the past, 7 years ago, some of the lords came, and they were fighting, and they touched the knife, and then it made them go to sleep. And so they've been asleep ever since. And so they waited. They thought it was the food that could have possibly put them to sleep. And this lady comes with yellow hair and a clear blue dress, and she's a star, and her father is a star, and apparently when you get old you lose your light or something like that. So they were there on the island, and Reba Chief, like drinks and everything, and this lady's very, very beautiful. And they decide that they talk to the father, and it's like he tells them how to get to the end of the world, Aslan's country and everything, and you're headed in the right direction. So they ship off, and then King Caspian's like, when I return, I would like to spend more time with you, lady, or whatever. And she's like, okay. And so they keep going, and they come to this area where there's like sea people. Lucy's looking underneath the water, and she sees roads, and then like a city under the water, and then she sees the sea people and they don't seem very friendly, but it seems like they're on a fish hunt or something. And she remembers when she was the queen in Narnia that for their coronation they came and like sang or whatever. So like they used to mingle with them, the Narnians, the sea people. And they keep and then the Reaper Chief, he remembers this saying that like the water would be sweet when you get close to Narnia's land. So he goes into the water, tastes the water, and it's so sweet that it fills them up, and it's like they get full and they don't have to eat a meal. And so it's like the water in itself was filling. So that's what the crew starts living off of, this sweet water. And so they keep going, and she sees a country mer girl or sea girl, and it's like she was herding some fish, and then she didn't see her anymore, but her face looked kind, not like the people in the city underneath the sea. And then they keep going, and they come to this point where it's like, oh, there's lilies all over the place. And then it's like, and it became so shallow that they couldn't go any further, and there was a statue in the cabin or something of a lion, and it's like Aslan talked to the King Caspian and everyone. He's like, you are not to go any further. So then Eustace, Reepicheep, and Lucy and Edmund go on with them. Now, when they were at like the food table island, to get rid of the enchantment, the father said that someone had to go to Aslan's island and basically kind of go through this like portal thing, or go to the edge or something and never return, and then the enchantment would be broken, and anyone who fell asleep, they would like, it would break the enchantment and they would like wake up. So eventually Reepicheep, he senses like, I need to go the rest of the way myself, so he says goodbye and he goes off to Aslan's island, and no one heard anything again. And then you have Eustace and Lucy and Edmund, the cousins. They finally make it to this area where it's completely sand, and they see a lamb, and the lamb's cooking food. So it seemed like they ate some food, and then the lamb turns into Aslan. And Lucy and Edmund are asking questions like, will we ever come again? And they're like, Aslan's like, no, you're not gonna come here again. And they ask if Eustace is gonna come back, and like Aslan's like, that's not for you to know. But again, hinting like the whole lamb, like, you can still get to know me. So it's like here Aslan showing in that he has different looks of clothes that he wears, or he looks different depending on what world he's in. And so he's like, in your world I look like a lamb, and to get to know me you have to look for the lamb, or get to know the lamb. And it could be a reference to the Bibles that they have in their country. So Aslan opens the sky, and they go through the sky, and they are back in the room. And then there was a note that King Caspian, when he went back to the food table island where Aslan has food for all of his guests there, that he asks the lady to marry him, the star's daughter, the old man's daughter. And like she said yes, and so they went back to Narnia, and then she was like the queen of and the grandmother of many future kings or whatever of Narnia. And the enchantment broke, and the lords went back to Narnia too. So, what are the moral lessons from this book? Well, I guess one thing that stands out is like that C.S. Lewis was trying to get kids to get along with each other. Like, you know, like if you're an only child or something, it may be hard to all of a sudden get along and share what you have with others, or you want to pick on someone because you're bored or you're not used to having kids your own age to play with, and so you could like be mean and not helpful or whatever. And so basically this whole trip to Narnia, that's what it said at the end of the book too, is that E. Eustace was pretty much like the brattiest cousin ever, and then he went through this experience like, oh man, I made a mistake, I turned into a dragon, and like I needed help to get out of it. And so he became like helpful and part of the team and got to know King Caspian, and he got along with his cousins better, and so he came this like made him a better individual, a better person. It refined his character, and so now he has something to talk about with his cousins, because before he was picking on them whenever they talked about Narnia, or he ever heard it before. He was picking on his cousins because he thought it was silly or stupid or anything, because he had never been there, so he didn't believe. So it shows that, you know, people can change. Sometimes they may have to learn the hard way, because if they're not gonna listen to other people who are in this helpful situation. In part of the story was like in the book, when they were on the slave trading island, they like King Caspian lied about who he was initially, because he didn't want anyone to know, because it's like, hey, if his captors had known he was the king, maybe they would have laughed, maybe they would have killed him. They're like, haha, you're, you know. And so like at the end he was able to declare himself as king, but it's like like sometimes you have to maybe hide information, not like, oh, blatantly tell everybody everything about you if like you're super rich or something, because it's like you have to like know when to share with who what information, because if you can't trust the every individual, then maybe you shouldn't blatantly tell everyone everything. So like that's kind of what I get from the King Caspian in this book, is like he did grow up, he did become a wiser individual, even though it's like only 3 years went by, in some ways, where he's like, let's not tell everyone this is where the gold is. Maybe people could be, you know, stupid and jump into this pool of water. I want to make sure I instruct people how to do this properly, because I don't want people to die. And then it's like you're making the country rich because you're turning things into gold. So he's gonna use it for the good of the country, but some people could probably twist that and be like, no, he's trying to hoard that island for himself, because so that like others from Narnia can't get the benefits of the gold too. So it's like, well, like he promised in the other book that he would be a good king, that he would look after the beasts and, like the different species and everything. And like accept everyone. And so like a part of him wanted to go to Aslan's country, and so a part of him wanted to like get on that little boat and like row and see Aslan's country. But in the end, everyone's like, you need to be a good king and look after for the Narnians. And remember, you wanted to talk with the lady of like the food stone table or whatever. And so like it talks some sense into him, and then he ended up marrying that lady. So it ended, and then it's like that they had a son together or whatever, because it didn't go over all the details of what happens to everyone in Narnia. This is like kind of like the overview stories of the Narnian land. So and then Lucy, a valuable lesson in this book about Lucy is that she wanted to be more pretty, but she saw in the book a picture of her like kind of looking like her sister Susan. And then it like kind of scared her, so she didn't say that spell, but she did kind of want to know what she would look like if she was more beautiful or prettier, because it seems what I'm getting from Lucy is like Susan grew up, she developed more, she's developing into an older girl or whatever, and whatever the proper terminology is. And so, or she's turning into a proper lady, right? Or, so it's like, what is the whole, like, what is the moral of the story with Lucy is you need to accept yourself for who you are, because if you wish yourselves to be more beautiful, like it seemed like in this story, like maybe their genetics were so close that if she wanted to be way more prettier, then it's like, oh, you wouldn't be Lucy, you would look like Susan, you're wishing yourself away out of existence. So be okay with who you are and what you look like. So like when I read this series in high school, like I'm not the most beautiful girl or lady in the world. I don't know if woman is the proper terminology, because like man is in the word woman, so I don't want to be associated as a man. And then female, it's like, well, you have a male, like, well, I'm not a male at all, so I'm like, I don't really want to identify as a female. So girl and boy are completely different, and so I'm up there in age, so maybe I'm an adult girl, but I'm not like a child. But it's like I'm trying to get away from bad terminology. What's the proper terminology of gender? Is boy, girl the proper gender? I mean, lady. If you get rid of the Y, you have lad, and I was taught that lad was a boy and lass was a girl. So is lady really, is a lad really short for lady? And in the books, they should be saying like lad means like is abbreviation for lady. And then you have lord, and lore is abbreviation, for a lord. Because I associated a lord as, a title for a boy, and lady a title for an adult girl. So it's like there's something wrong with the language that I speak and I don't know the proper words. But if you actually sound things out and you think things through, it's like maybe that's why there's so much confusion in the world today, is like, well, we need someone to break the or get rid of the language curse, so that way we have proper terminology of gender. What is the proper terminology of a girl versus a boy, like, and stuff like that. So so that's where I am. I'm confused on proper word meanings, because I don't want to, if I'm really 100% a girl, I don't want in any of my descriptions to have like words that mean you're a boy in it. So, but like, I think from the body parts that I have that it definitely proves I'm physically an adult girl. So, but how do you get the language to change so you have the proper gender names? And I've tried to tell people in the past that it's like, oh, our language is cursed. We need a pure language with proper terminology, proper meanings of words, because I was looking at the dictionary at one time and trying to read it, and it was like there are so many confusing definitions for certain words that it's like, if our words actually have the power to curse or bless us, if you have the wrong definitions and the wrong pronunciations, you could be speaking curses on yourself and you don't even know it. So kind of like this book kind of goes into that. You have to be careful with the words that you speak, because you could curse yourself. So if you want to speak blessings, you need the proper definitions, you need to know what you're saying, and you need to speak blessings over your life. So I wish the language that I have would change and become more pure, and even if it's hard to relearn it, like, I'd rather start from scratch, like at the age of 0, where it's like I know nothing, and like learn how to pronounce everything correctly, relearn how to read, so that I can speak words of blessings over my life in different areas of my life. So I guess that's like kind of like the summary of this book and different moral lessons that you get out of it. And it's like, also it shows that like sailors, that like you go through storms, when you're exploring different areas, and so it's like, can you get through the storm? Can you work together as a team to solve these problems? Because you may need to do repairs to your ship. You know, you may need to do repairs and fix things up. So can we come together, work together as a team, as a community, to do repairs, to make society better? So there's those moral lessons too, showing teamwork. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time.